The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are simply that, opinions. All are presumed innocent until proven otherwise in a court of law. Sensitive topics are discussed. Discretion is advised.
Do you need a moment, Mr. Tower?
You took the knife with you to go out and find the person that adopted you.
Yes, I was temporarily insane. I did not plan on it.
Mr. Tower,
It was not premeditated.
did you decide to kill your parents before you walked in?
Yes.
Defendant Dima Tower testifying against the advice of his defense, his side of the story, plus his combative cross, and what kind of a message is the troubled son sending to the jury? A body language expert breaks it down this morning. Melody Buzzard, missing now for exactly 1 month. Her mom getting caught up in a false imprisonment charge. Could that accuser's statement reveal if Melody is dead or alive? Also this hour, more clues in an 18-year-old girl's mysterious death on a cruise ship. Her dad speaking out. It's all next, right here on Opening Statements. Good Friday morning and welcome to Opening Statements. I'm Ted Rollins in for Julie Grant. Great to round out another week with you here on Court TV. Julie's will be back on Monday morning. This show, of course, is all about getting you ready for a day, and it's a busy Friday around the country. We've got a sentencing hearing, we've got court appearances and some high-profile. Brian Walsh is going to be in court, plus some closing arguments. First, as we always do, let's get a look at the daily dockets.
Luke Truesdale, the defendant, killed Ramonda Cooper, that he killed Amanda Parker, that he killed Kiana Ryan, that he killed Brent Brown, that he is responsible for first-degree murder for those 4 victims.
In Iowa, we are on verdict watch in the Metal Pipe Massacre trial for Luke Truesdale. He is accused of killing 4 people by attacking them with a metal pipe. Day 2 of deliberations resume at 10 a.m. Eastern. In Colorado, closing arguments expected later today in the father figure murder trial for Darren Thrailkill. He's, of course, accused of killing his girlfriend's 6-year-old son, Martin. That at 11 a.m. And in Nevada, the defense begins its case in the love triangle beheading trial for former porn star Devin Michaels. She's accused of bludgeoning her ex-boyfriend, Jonathan Willett. Will she take the stand at 2 o'clock Eastern time? Let's start, though, with our top story. The closing arguments less than an hour away in the adopted son murder trial for defendant Dima Tower. He's accused of brutally stabbing his adoptive parents, Jennifer and Robbie Tower. He took the stand in his own defense. Bit of a surprise yesterday. He was very combative at time while telling a story about his adoption, his relationship with his parents. He's claiming that he was temporarily insane when he walked into the room and killed them both with knives. But on cross, he did admit to the killings.
Focus you on when you sat down and talked with the police down there in Venice. Do you remember that?
I do.
Okay. Was that the first time that you had ever had that kind of encounter with police?
Yes.
How'd that make you feel?
Objection.
Awkward.
Do you remember talking with them about multiple times having thoughts of killing your parents?
Yeah, I only had those thoughts a couple times.
Okay. Did you ever have a plan in place to make that happen?
No, I did not.
You took the knife with you to go out and find the person that adopted you.
Yes, I was temporarily insane, as I said.
Temporarily insane.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Members of the jury, I'm going to ask that you strike that last response. There is no insanity defense.
You told the detectives that you stabbed your mother to death, but not until you finished what you had to say to her. What did you have to say to her that night?
There was a lot went on between the 3 of us.
What did you say to your mother before you stabbed her to death?
I'm answering your question. You're not listening. There was a lot that went on between the 3 of us.
Did you decide to kill your parents before you walked in?
Yes.
Yeah, that was something else yesterday afternoon. Here to discuss criminal defense attorneys Don Malarczyk and David Bruno. Happy Friday to both of you. Don, his attorney said don't do it. He did it. And did he help himself or hurt himself?
Oh, Lord, no. He destroyed his case. He's trying to convince the jury that he was temporarily insane. The problem is, as the judge instructed the jury, there was no temporary insanity or insanity defense raised. That's a defense that you have to notify the court in writing that you are arguing, and it must be supported by doctors, by evaluations, by physicians, by psychiatrists, by psychologists who have made a serious mental disease diagnosis. And then you have to show some evidence that the person did not know, because of this serious disease, the wrongfulness of his or her conduct. None of that has been placed into evidence. I can certainly understand why the defense attorney did not want Dima to testify. Whatever reasonable doubt may have been present before he took the stand is now destroyed.
David, you concur?
Yeah, I do exactly concur. In fact, I don't think he had a shot, even if he stayed off that stand, to be quite honest. I mean, it was a pretty tight case for prosecutors even before he got on the stand. But, he didn't bring anything that's an adequate provocation either. We've been talking a lot about that on a couple of different cases we've been talking about. It didn't rise to insanity because he didn't call the forensic psychiatrist or psychologist to testify about the disease or defect. And then also not an adequate provocation whatsoever. The father, the adopted father, he was sleeping and the mother was fleeing. So short on both those defenses, it's going to be a guilty even if he didn't take the stand.
Here is the young man on the stand there on cross-examination talking about his father. Take a listen.
Rob did not want to adopt at all. And then he wanted to adopt a daughter. And then finally, he agreed to adopt a son. So he didn't really want to adopt to begin with.
Mr. Tower, there was no question related to wanting to adopt other children. The question was calling for a yes or no response.
Well, he didn't really want to adopt me is what I'm saying.
Mr. Tower, if you can please listen to the question and answer yes or no. Please ask the question again.
Thank you. Did your father tell you that you were destroying his marriage to Jennifer?
I was not destroying his marriage to Jennifer.
The question, sir. The question was, did your father tell you that? Did your father tell you that, yes or no?
Well, what do you want me to say? He doesn't know how to love his wife. What do you want me to say?
Don, he went, in the opening statements, he broke down and cried, and he had a bit of I kind of feel sorry for this kid because he was passed around in the Ukraine, and he seemed very emotional during the opening statements, and then he sat there in court, and I could have seen maybe a juror or two being pulled towards him with little empathy, and now he's angry young man from the Ukraine. I mean, he's just blown that out of the water. He's not a guy that the Florida jurors want walking around Florida.
No. And I give a lot of credit to the prosecutor. She did a masterful job of bringing that out in Mr. Tower and showing his rage, showing a little glimpse into his psyche, a little glimpse into how he will not tolerate the least bit of conflict. He's arguing with the judge. He's arguing with the prosecutor. He's being combative. And the jury absorbs all that, experiences it in real time. And again, this is the reason why the defense attorney wisely said, do not take the stand. You're not going to help yourself. You're going to destroy your case. And we're watching that in real time as he does it.
David, in the opening statements, the defense got up and said to the jury, listen, he did it. We know he did it. But this was manslaughter. This was not premeditated. And this kid is, he's been bounced around. He went to an orphanage in the Ukraine. His mother died. And now in closings, does he have to change that, or is that's still the plea with a straight face to this jury in the close today, which we'll watch in just a few hours?
Yeah. I mean, the defense attorney can only do what he can do. It's still, there's nothing else to argue, honestly, Ted. There's no insanity as the instruction we heard from the court. There's nothing left other than just to try to get them to understand that there was no premeditation. But again, you know, and then final point too, I think it's important to note that defense attorneys, they have a lot of leeway in tactical strategies during the trial and how they cross-examine and object and think. This is one thing that is the defendant's choice. And we have reports that the defense attorney didn't want him on the stand, but again, the defendant's choice to take the stand, and it was his choice alone to do this.
And Don, how do you combat that if you do have a client that is hell-bent on getting up there and you know he's just starting to dig, and but to David's point, it's that client's choice, is it not? And how, as a defense attorney, do you try your best and sway him or her off of that idea?
Well, Ted, as a father of 3 teenagers, I've got some experience in trying to teach someone not to do the thing that they desperately want to do. In all seriousness, what I do with my client is I will sit them down in my office, or if they're in a jail cell, I will go and visit them, and I will conduct a mock cross-examination. And I promise you, it will be brutal. It will be difficult. I know the case better than anybody on the planet, and I can cross-examine my client in a way that shows this client, hopefully, that what you're trying to do, I understand what you're trying to do. I can help you do that, but you're not going to be the person who's going to do that. So I try to put them through what we're seeing here, which is a little piece of the cross-examination, so they can feel it, they can experience it, and they can get a disdain for it, hopefully, before the trial ever starts.
Yeah, a little wake-up call when they're like, oh, this is how it's going to go if I take the stand. Great advice there for your client. Unfortunately, it didn't work out in this case for this young man. Let's get a break. When we come back, we're talking more about Dima Tower's emotions and body language. What was the message that he was sending to the jury?
Do you need a moment, Mr. Tower?
Plus, we're spotlighting the mysterious case of Melody Buzzard, the 9-year-old, still missing her mother, charged with an unrelated crime, and now she, mom, is back home.
The Court TV podcast will return.
Have you had an opportunity, not what you said, but have you had an opportunity to talk to your lawyer and ask him questions before you reach your decision as to whether or not you will testify?
I have.
Do you need any additional time, Mr. Tower, to talk to your attorney before you tell me what your decision is?
Do not.
Okay. And have you reached a decision?
Yes.
And what is your decision?
I want to testify.
He did. He wanted to testify, and he did. He got up there on the stand yesterday, and not a lot of rave reviews from the defendant's performance. And part of it may have been his body language and the way he was saying certain things. The 24-year-old witness was called by his defense team after that sidebar there. He was emotional on direct when his attorney questioned him about his movements before stabbing his adoptive parents to death.
So in August of 2023, which is the incident that we're talking about, how long prior to that were you back living with the house? Because I know you had just moved back there, correct?
Well, yeah, I assume that
Do you need a moment, Mr. Tower?
Yeah, he did. He was emotional there. What do we make of that? There's a young man breaking down on the stand. Could that be good for him? Well, let's bring in an expert, jury consultant, human behavior expert, Susan Constantine's with us on this Friday. All right, Susan, start with that. His emotion, he displayed it in opening statements when his attorney was talking, and then he got up in the stand and he had a couple of these incidents as well. How does that play?
Well, first of all, I want to kind of back up a little bit. And what we're seeing is that long pause when he was asked the question. You could see a lot of movement in his mouth. So that's showing a lot of high emotional stress. And what he's thinking about is how he's going to answer that question. Because right now, or at that moment, he had many different angles he could have taken. He had many different thoughts and thinking patterns. And so in experiences that he had, and he was trying to figure out which one he was going to draw out first. And then what happened was there was what we call an emotional flooding. And when you have so much, your cognitive or your emotion issues or emotionality is really high, you lose cognition, and then he kind of breaks down, and that's when he starts to cry. So that's what I'm seeing is what we call emotional flooding, and it's just because he has got way too much that he's dealing with as it relates to cognitive load.
Yeah, and so on direct, there was a lot of sad Dima. On cross, turned into angry Dima. Take a listen.
But as a human being, you walked into your father's bedroom with your mother sleeping next to him. The parents that brought you over here.
Objection, argumentative, compound question.
These people were not my parents.
Hold on. I'm going to overrule the objection. It's a bit compoundish, but I'm going to allow it. You may continue with your question.
Thank you. The parents that brought you over here to this country, and you weren't thinking anything.
These people were not my parents.
I mean, just the bull-like breathing.
Yes.
What did you pick up on?
Well, that's exactly what was happening, is because you could see his flaring of his nostrils, and they got really tight. That's an aggressive emotional expression, okay? So with that heavy breathing, the flared nostrils, this is what we see before a person is attacked. This is called preeminent attack aggressive behavior. So you can imagine what those parents saw right at that moment. He's detached, he's angry, he has low EQ, he doesn't make eye contact. There is no emotionality whatsoever. He's very guarded. He's got guardrails all around him, and he attacks the questioner. He attacks the question, he attacks the questioner, and he's very controlling and very dominant. And that is what is seen as overall demeanor, and that's what the jury is going to see, or is seeing.
And that, the way he's saying it, his mother, and his words, he's attacking the victims, the dead people. And that's not going to fly with a jury.
Not at all. And that's one of the deception detective tactics that people use, is they don't want to take ownership. So what they do is they attack the question, or they attack the questioner. And he consistently does that because this is what he has created, these guardrails, and he wants control, and he wants his words to be heard. But on the other hand, this is not going to land well with the jury, because they're going to see this guy is really troubled, he's dangerous, and they can't make a decision of whether to leave him in or out, because bottom line is he's a murderer, and he also fits the mold of what you would expect what a murderer would look like.
Here's more from Tower on Cross as the state questions the defendant about his life with Rob and Jennifer Tower.
You made Jennifer and Robbie's life in their home a living hell, didn't you, Mr. Tower?
Again, there was a lot that went on.
Yes.
Yes, but
Yes.
some adults don't know how to be
Yes.
parents. Yes.
You made their life a living hell.
No, I didn't. There's some adults don't know how to be parents. You don't know what you're talking about.
In fact,
I came from a harsh environment.
many people come from a harsh environment,
Yeah, but
and they don't kill their
you gotta
parents.
know how to treat those people correctly so they grow up properly.
Oof, what do you pick up there, Susan?
Well, his tone, you can see that his tone got very angry, even more angry. You don't have to be a body language expert to be able to hear that. But what we do listen for is tone changes, and he becomes very harsh. And when he does that, he's very pointed. He's trying to say to everybody is that he was raised in this horrible environment, that they were really mean people, and you don't understand. But the point is that the jury doesn't need to really understand that. And that what they're seeing is a really angry, aggressive person who probably has dealt with a lot of trauma. But the thing is that just that trauma is living out into this new relationship with this family, and he's created havoc in there. So But he doesn't see that because he has low EQ. He doesn't have the emotionality of what most people do. And it's probably because he's like a dead man walking.
Interesting. Yeah. He basically put himself on display. He put that murderer, that savage murderer, on display for the jury. And from a juror's standpoint, we all as human beings are reacting to all stimuli. And boy, there was a lot to absorb there. For a lay person watching that, there had to be a reaction, like fear almost, seeing this dude on the stand acting like a maniac.
Yeah, absolutely, because people, human beings, are naturally pick up the energy and the emotions of other people, and that tone, the facial expressions, the sniffing, right? The sniffing, the aggression, and all of that, and the tone and the control that he has. They are like living right there and seeing what that family went through. And so he's not doing himself any favors whatsoever. It's sad because I'm sure that something horrific has happened, and he's built up walls and guardrails and all of that. But I don't think that's going to be a mitigating factor.
Someone like this, do they change over time? He's going to prison for possibly the end of his life. Is he going to be angry Dima the rest of his life, or as you mature and get out? What is your experience in seeing in terms of people morphing?
You can de-escalate. The problem is it's already gone too far. So when you think about the Center for Aggressive Management actually talks about this, and that's Dr. Barnes, and if had they caught this on early and learned how to de-escalate and get him the proper medical or psychological help that he had, yes, you could minimize it, because what you're dealing with is a lot of trauma and abandonment, and that's really what I'm seeing here. This person felt rejected and abandoned. He mentioned, right? They wanted a little girl. First of all, then they ended up with a boy. So he already went into it already feeling like, you really didn't want me, did you? They didn't want me. You don't want me. And that is why he's created all these guardrails. But had he gotten the proper treatment, he probably would have been a lot better off than he is right now. So I don't know what happened here, but obviously he's failed himself, and his parents probably had no clue how to fix it.
Oh gosh, I mean, his after watching him, you have to feel so bad for these people. They did what they thought was a wonderful thing, bringing in a kid that needed a home, and that's what they got. Susan Constantine, as always, thanks for the guidance as we decipher Dima on the stand, Dima Tower. Let's get a break. Still to come.
We know that Melody was still with Ashlee on that return trip, as close as the Colorado-Utah border on the Colorado side on October 9th.
Where is Melody Buzzard? And what's going on with her mom, Ashlee? A statement about mom's arrest could reveal about something about whether Melody's dead or alive. We'll get into that. Plus, a teen girl mysteriously dies on a cruise ship. More details being revealed. Her father is speaking out. Stay with us.
Now, back to the Court TV podcast.
This is just so shocking to me, in that my granddaughter is dressed in a disguise. This is just so overwhelming. It's just so really scary. You need to tell him where the baby is. You need to tell him who's setting all these things up for you. I know you're not doing it.
That's Grandma talking about 9-year-old Melody Buzzard, reported missing 1 month ago today. And this morning, the spotlight is on her mother, and maybe some new hope that Melody could still be alive. Ashlee Buzzard left jail Thursday after being arrested for false imprisonment involving a man named Tyler Brewer, who says he went to Melody's house to offer his help. He told News Nation that Ashlee revealed to him where Melody was and who she was with, but that she appeared to regret telling him that information and pulled out a box cutter and locked the doors to her home. Brewer described seeing several locks on the door. Eventually, of course, he was able to leave. Brewer released a statement saying, "My position has never changed. Find Melody, protect the investigation, bring her home safely." Buzzard entered a not guilty plea on Wednesday and is back in court November 19th. Melody's paternal grandmother just wants to know where her grandma or her granddaughter is.
I would have never recognized her. I can't believe it's her. She looks so different. What about my case? Where's my granddaughter? Well, we don't know nothing yet. That's what they tell me.
So, can the information from Tyler Brewer help police find Melody? And does it mean that Melody is still alive? That's what she told Tyler. Here to discuss, retired FBI Special Agent Jennifer Coffindaffer and private investigator Manuel Gomez. Good morning to both of you. Jennifer, what do you take from Tyler's rendition of events inside of Melody's house?
Well, I find them to be very truthful. I think those events took place. And in terms of whether we can believe them, I think we can believe that they happened. But this is a woman who is in, a very difficult mental state. So I don't know how much deference we can really give to what she says. But I can tell you they're going to run down that lead. And it does give us a little bit more hope.
Manuel, obviously that lead has been run down, right? The moment that information was released, they went down that road, and still we don't have the 9-year-old. So on some level, you could assume that was not truthful, that she was just maybe throwing it out there. What's your take overall on what Brewer's reporting and the fact that even with that information, we still don't have the little girl?
I don't know. My feeling on Brewer is that his behavior is quite questionable, so I wouldn't take too much credibility on that guy. But I do have a solution set, Ted, to finally find Melody. And the solution is grandmother. Both grandmothers, listen to me. Go to family court. Put in a petition for child custody for this child because of the mother's endangerment and neglect of this child. And I guarantee you the family court will hear your case. They will also appoint a lawyer to Melody Buzzard. When they do that, the mother is going to have to turn over where her location is and let that lawyer speak to that child. Now, if she doesn't do that, then they will arrest her. And then we got Melody. And then we can find out where she's at. That is a guaranteed solution.
Okay, I like it. A proactive potential solution from Manuel on a Friday. Jennifer, a lot of times, unfortunately, when kids are missing, especially for a month now, today, they end up being found, but it's their remains that are found. What does your gut tell you on this one? Because it is a little different. It's bizarre. The road trip, she returns, the wigs, the surveillance video. It feels like there's a chance that she's still alive. What's your take?
You know, I give it a very small chance, and this is going from statistically speaking, from cases from my experience with all of this. And I think at this point, it's very bleak that Melody is alive. But as I said, there's still some chance. I also believe that authorities would have already run down anyone she would have intersected with in terms of family members. We know that there was family in Utah. That's the beginning of the investigation, is to run down all these possible individuals she could have been with. Again, I think Melody's mother could have just made up that story of who she left her with, and probably that is what ferreted out. But we don't even know if that address was found. There's so little we really know about that information particularly.
Manuel, your thoughts on the possibility that Melody is still alive?
I think the possibility is very bleak. And the reason why, in my experience in cases like this, is that, the longer you wait, the less chances of that child being found alive. This mother has deliberately evaded. She has deliberately deceived. And like my colleague said as well in the past, she's changed license plates. She wears wigs, disguises. She's done everything. And she's taken to the child to a location in Utah and Nebraska, which is well known for child trafficking. Again, The law enforcement, the FBI, the prosecutors, they've all failed in this. They keep making threats to this woman and nobody has come through. It is time for the family to take action in family court, put in that petition for child custody, for child neglect and child endangerment, because law enforcement is not doing their job. I'm sorry. If you want that child alive, take action now.
Jennifer, let's assume that nothing happens in this case in terms of finding Melody. At what point and how could you envision a possible criminal prosecution here? What do you need to go after Ashlee? If there is no body ever found, if she disappears off the face of the earth, does mom get away with it?
Well, the number one charge to me that sticks out that could be charged right now is obstruction. She is obstructing justice. She is not telling anyone what happened to Melody. And furthermore, and I agree with Manuel, there needs to be more action taken. What I want to see is a judge issue a summons. She needs to go to dependency court and be forced before a judge to say what she did with Melody. And if Melody doesn't pony up, she needs to be thrown in jail on contempt of court. But something more actionable needs to be done at this point, or we're definitely going to lose Melody.
Yeah, Manuel, I mean, it feels a lot like, as producer Annette says, Lori Vallow. This is like where are the kids, where are the kids, where is Melody? And you've got a mother, the person who is most relied upon on the face of the earth for a child to protect, who is refusing to answer the basic question of where her daughter is. And with the wigs, with the behavior, there seems to be something going on up there. What do you think what are the possibilities of mothers of her behavior, not saying where her daughter is? What's the possible reason for that?
Well, again, it goes back to what I said. My suspicion all along in the beginning is that this case is possibly a sex trafficking. She got rid of the child. She could not afford the child anymore. She has the history of feeding her prior child bad food. Her prior child was taken away by the father. Unfortunately, Melody Buzzard's father died. So we have nobody else other than Melody Buzzard's grandmothers to take action in this case. And like my colleague just said, all right, the longer we wait, she's going to show up dead. All right, this has passed the time of no return. We have to take action. And the problem is the system, Ted, is not taking the action. And unfortunately, it's going to wind up turning out like a Manuel Horror case where there's going to be a dead body, but the parent won't say where it is. And that's my biggest fear in this case.
Jennifer, her instability is a problem, and how do investigators deal with someone like that to crack them?
Well, there's a case, Catherine Hoggle. It's exactly mimics this case. She had care and custody and control of her children. They both ended up disappearing. That woman was also extremely unstable. They ended up arresting her on obstruction. This is in 2014, and finally now in 2025, she's finally been charged with the murder of those kids. They still have no bodies. So they definitely can put together, a case, but it came down to them institutionalizing her. And during the while she was in that institution, she said she strangled the children and threw them in the trash. And that was the piece they needed. So I think they need to get her behind bars, and they need to get her in therapy sessions where she might divulge information.
Yeah, let's see where this goes. Again, 1 month ago today, she was reported missing, and a lot of people are hoping that she's possibly alive, but as discussed with you two, probably low probability. Manuel, Jennifer, as always, thank you. Coming up, rumors still swirling about what happened to the teen girl who died on a Carnival cruise ship. Her father speaking out this morning. Stay with us.
This is the Court TV podcast.
The mysterious death of Anna Kepner is back trending this morning. So many questions. remain. After the high school cheerleader was found dead on a cruise ship, the 18-year-old was reported dead while aboard the Carnival Horizon last weekend. The straight-A student was set to graduate in May, but her family is still in the dark over what happened. Anna's father, Christopher, said this about the investigation while speaking with the Daily Mail. Quote, everybody was questioned. Everybody came off that ship. I don't know who they are looking at or what their investigation is. The FBI hasn't shared anything with me yet. I would imagine they're going to be in contact with me about it, but I know as little as everyone else. I have no idea what is going on right now. We are just trying to sit still and wait for answers. Anna's travel party, including her father, stepmother, and step-siblings, according to the Daily Mail. The teen shared this post on TikTok on October 30th, nearly a week before her death, but no word if her message in this post is relevant to the investigation. The Miami-Dade County Medical Examiner lists Anna's time of death at 11:17 a.m., exactly 11:17 a.m. on November 7th. So we're wondering, what happened? What happened to this 18-year-old cheerleader? Here to discuss, private investigator Manuel Gomez, still with us, and criminal defense attorneys Don Malarsic and David Bruno. All right, Manuel, I want to talk about the 11:17. How do they know she died at 11:17?
That's outrageous. I've never seen any medical examiner give an exact minute like that. This is the first time in my career I've seen that. But I will say this is a case is going to be very difficult for law enforcement because remember, Ted, the cruise ships, their security personnel that found this dead body, their main priority is to protect the cruise ship industry. Okay, so they don't have the training to protect and keep all that evidence isolated. So I'm very highly questionable on what's going on with this investigation. Just like in the Melody Bradley case, where they dropped the ball on so many aspects, this one has. But again, this is not a suspicious death. This girl was healthy, Ted. She took a military exam. She was given a clean bill of sale. She was a cheerleader. This girl was murdered. There is no doubt in my mind. And this happens all the time on these cruise ships.
David, the FBI has jurisdiction here because of the international waters factor. Doesn't necessarily, although Manuel's convinced of it, that there was foul play or that she was murdered. On the other hand, if there was a sense that maybe she took her own life, maybe she had an OD, maybe there was an accident, you'd think there'd be a little bit of that being released officially. You know, pending autopsy, we believe that actually, we're not getting that. And that does raise eyebrows. What does your gut tell you about possibly what happened to this young woman?
Yeah, the number of red flags. First of all, at port, FBI's there. They have the evidence truck. Also, the fact that this medical examiner is issuing a statement like that on time of death. Look, as a former homicide prosecutor running investigations with law enforcement, there's a careful balance between the integrity of the investigation and communicating with the victim's family. But the communication with the victim's family is critical to at least give them some information, not leaving them in the dark like the prior statement that we just played. So concerning. But FBI at the port doing what they're doing, it was definitely an indication that there's some crime being investigated.
Don, 11:17, very specific. Is there video? Is there some? How do you timestamp somebody's death at this juncture?
Yeah, Ted, you're absolutely right. I mean, having cross-examined dozens and dozens of coroners and medical examiners about the precise time of death, I can tell you with absolute certainty that there is no real way medically, forensically, to date the time of death at that kind of specific moment, minute and second. There has to be some kind of other collateral evidence, some kind of perhaps surveillance video that had a camera on it with the exact date and time, something she may have done with her phone. There has to be some other evidence independent of the cause and the manner of death and the medical evidence that the coroner's reviewing to be that specific with respect to the time of death. You just can't do it medically.
Manuel, these are floating cities, these cruise ships, as you well know, and specifically the Horizon here, the Carnival Horizon. It's 1,000 feet in length, 3,900 guest capacity, 3,960 to be exact. You've got 1,450 crew on board as well. That's a lot of people in a small area, a lot of potential, I guess, suspects. And as we talked about earlier this week, yes, there's surveillance video on these ships, but it's spotty. It's not, there are areas that are not under surveillance. So this could be a long investigation, theoretically, if something went wrong.
Absolutely correct. And that's what makes it a nightmare. Because, Ted, this is a floating city, okay? And this is the problem, Ted. Most people go on these cruises, they lower their guard, they think they're safe. No, you have to keep the same mentality, the same awareness as though you're walking through the streets of Brooklyn or Manhattan, okay? You have to be on top of your game. Yeah, have fun, okay? But the bottom line is you are surrounded by 4,000 people and very minimal security, okay? This is a hazardous area. And when you come on that, you have to know that. Unfortunately, like I said, if you want to see how bad the things are, Ted, all you have to do is go on the Department of Transportation website. They'll show you how many suspicious deaths, how many rapes that are going on within 2025 on Carnival Cruise, Royal Caribbean, NTL. These industry is a hazardous place for people because you're trapped in an area where there is no security that is trained to do this type of investigation.
And David, if somebody did something who's not related to the family, you're talking now about people scattering, and when they disembark, they could be anywhere. Like to track down every passenger unless they have information. I mean, they're not going to be able to interview everybody on that ship, obviously.
Absolutely troubling in that I would imagine everyone's off that ship. And if they don't have a person in custody right now, man, they definitely have questions on identity, assuming a crime, obviously, and who knows where those people are, if they're even in the United States still.
Don, does your gut tell you that if this was accidental or self-inflicted or something like a drug overdose, that there would have been something released at this point to sort of stop speculation and also put the family and give them some answers, which they, according to that interview they did with the Daily Mail, they don't have yet. At least Dad doesn't.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Ted. As David said, the FBI crime lab showing up at the port is concerning. The lack of any transparency is concerning, but I certainly understand why the FBI is doing that. And really the only reason to withhold that information is because there is some kind of ongoing investigation and they don't want to compromise that investigation. I mean, the only advice I would have to the parents is get an attorney, right? You don't want to be making statements out in the public or on social media. Get an attorney, have that attorney be your spokesperson, have that attorney be your liaison to the FBI, to the U.S. Attorney's Office. Oftentimes, attorneys could get more information from other attorneys or other law enforcement agencies that they might not tell to a layperson. So getting counsel is probably a really wise idea, I would suggest.
Yeah, good advice. That 1117 really sticks out. How would they know that, and what does that mean to this investigation? Gentlemen, as always, thank you for your valuable time. We appreciate it on this Friday. Enjoy your weekend. Opening statements is over.
That's all for this episode of Opening Statements, my friends. I'm your host, Julie Grant, and it's been great being with you. On this show, I am calling out any pants on fire moments in our big trials and true crime stories, and I want you to come along with me. Opening Statements is live every weekday morning at 8 a.m. Eastern on Court TV. Thank you for downloading this episode. Please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your friends. You can watch past shows anytime you like on CourtTV.com.